You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
Imagine pouring your entire marketing budget into highly targeted digital ads, only to realize that 81% of consumers in the US are actively trying to tune them out.
Yeah.
And 52% are using ad blockers or virtual private networks just to evade you completely. Your money is not just being ignored, it is being deliberately dodged.
Yeah, it is a massive technological rejection. People are building actual digital walls to keep marketing messages out, which means the implicit trust the advertising industry used to rely on is, well, it is completely fractured. We are dealing with an audience that actively resents being tracked.
I am your host here on Vocal Technologist, and as that tech-savvy mate who usually helps you sort out your router, I'm here to help you unpack a massive shift in how we actually sell things. We are looking under the hood of a reality where human beings are dodging marketing, search behaviors are mutating, and artificial intelligence agents are stepping in as the ultimate gatekeepers between products and buyers.
Right, and to survive this era, professionals have to optimize for two entirely different audiences at the exact same time. You have evasive humans on one side and highly logical robotic buyers on the other. It is a dual-track strategy, and I mean, most companies are completely unprepared for it.
Well, and even when you do manage to reach the humans, it often backfires spectacularly. Take Gen Z, for example. 24% of them say they view a brand negatively just because it followed them around the internet with a retargeted ad. Older cohorts are slightly more tolerant, but Gen Z actively resents the stalking.
They grew up as digital natives, so they understand the underlying mechanism behind the ad. They feel the manipulation more acutely, When they see a pair of shoes they looked at once suddenly appearing on every website they visit, it feels less like helpful curation and more like corporate surveillance.
Spot on. We have established that humans are actively hiding, but the platforms themselves are also distorting the data we actually rely on to make decisions. So let us pull apart why the tracking mechanisms we have used for a decade are breaking down.
While traditional tracking degrades, new giants are emerging to fill the void. OpenAI is a prime example. They are pushing for $100 billion in ad revenue.
Wait, $100 billion? That is astronomical for a company that essentially built a really smart chatbot.
It sounds high, but they boast over 900 million weekly users with massive projected growth. During initial testing phases, over 600 advertisers generated more than $8 million monthly just running campaigns on their chatbot.
Oh, well.
The strategy works because it relies on the incredibly strong purchase intent of users asking very specific questions.
That makes logical sense. If I am asking a chatbot to compare 3 specific enterprise software tools, my intent to buy is massive. But then you look at platforms we already use, like Reddit, and they are quietly destroying pay-per-click signal quality.
Yes, they absolutely are.
Let me throw this study at you. Looking at over 8,500 business-to-business software keywords, Reddit beats the actual software vendors organically 67.3% of the time on really expensive search terms. We're talking terms that cost over $50 a click. I mean, why is Reddit outranking the people who literally build the software and have massive SEO budgets?
It comes down to human psychology. Buyers want unvarnished opinions. They do not trust glossy landing pages engineered by marketing teams anymore.
Because they know those pages are designed to sell, not to tell the truth.
Exactly. So they spend days researching on Reddit threads, looking for actual user complaints, bugs, and raw praises before they ever consider clicking an official ad.
Which completely scrambles the data for the marketing team. How exactly does this break our analytics? Like, let us say I'm running Google Ads. How does Reddit mess that up?
The problem is how Google smart bidding algorithms evaluate success. The algorithm sees the cost of the click when the user initially clicks your ad to visit your site.
Right.
But if the user does not buy right then and leaves to validate their choice on Reddit, the algorithm does not see the conversion. The user makes up their mind on Reddit, and maybe they bookmark your site and come back later on a different device to finally buy. So the algorithm pulls back your budget on the exact terms that actually produce your most qualified leads, falsely assuming those keywords are failures because they did not lead to an immediate, trackable sale.
It is like hiring a brilliant detective who is legally blind.
Mm.
The Google algorithm is incredibly smart, but because the buyer made their final decision on a completely separate Reddit thread, the algorithm literally cannot see the moment of conversion. It is blind to the actual trigger that made the person buy. So how do we give the detective glasses?
The fix is offline conversion tracking. You have to capture the click identifier when the user first visits your site from the ad. You store that identifier securely in your own customer database.
Okay.
Then, when they finally buy, weeks later, perhaps from a direct link or a different device, you feed that data manually back to the ad platform. Google data shows a median 10% lift in conversions for advertisers who do this. You essentially have to connect the dots for the algorithm, proving to it that its initial work was actually successful.
So we are essentially doing the algorithm's homework for it. And Google is also forcing structural changes on their end. The research mentioned they are automatically upgrading dynamic search ads to AI Max. For those of us who are not developers, what is the actual mechanism here? What does AI Max actually do differently under the hood?
Historically, advertisers used dynamic search ads as a wide net. It was a catch-all discovery layer to scoop up random, loosely related traffic, even if your website was not perfectly organized.
Yeah.
AI Max abandons that net completely. It uses machine learning to actively evaluate your site architecture. If your site structure is messy, if your internal linking is broken, or your pages lack clear logical hierarchy, the AI will simply bypass you. It heavily rewards incredibly clean, logical landing pages over manual keyword stuffing.
Meaning you cannot just buy your way out of a terrible website anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I also read Google is starting to punish sites for back button hijacking.
Oh, that technique. Yes, that is where a site manipulates your browser history. When you hit the back button to leave, you are trapped by a pop-up or redirected to a discount page. Oh, I hate that so much. You try to leave, and suddenly you are forced to play a spin-the-wheel game for 10% off. It is infuriating.
It is, and Google is actively penalizing sites that do this because it destroys the user experience.
But while Google is policing the back button, younger demographics are not even using traditional search engines the same way anyway. What did you find in the research about youth search behaviors?
The data from Pew Research is quite revealing. 9 in 10 teens use TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat.
9 in 10, wow.
Yeah, and TikTok leads for product discovery, with about 60% using it for reviews. 40% use TikTok or Instagram for news. And Snapchat is the undisputed king of relationships, with 44% saying it actively improves friendships.
So we have TikTok for discovery, Reddit for brutal validation, and search engines desperately trying to hold on to the final transaction. The buyer journey is not a straight line anymore. It is a web of social proof. If humans are hiding from ads, searching on TikTok, and Reddit is hijacking our analytics, we have a massive problem. If the traditional paths are broken, who or what is actually doing the buying? Because humans are overwhelmed by all this fragmentation, they are starting to delegate the entire research phase. They are handing the buying process over to artificial intelligence agents.
Hold on. Are these agents actually swiping credit cards right now, or are we just talking about theoretical lab tests at universities? Because the idea that my meticulously crafted marketing budget is trying to impress a piece of software is completely wild.
It is moving from theory to reality very quickly. A joint study from Yale and Columbia proves that AI agents act as highly capable evaluators right now, and they evaluate things very differently than human beings do.
How so?
For example, the researchers found that simply renaming a product to perfectly match user intent increased selection by 80.4 percentage points for GPT 5.1, 52 points for Gemini 2.5 Flash, and 41 points for Claude Opus 4.5.
Wait, just renaming the product caused an 80% jump. How does an AI evaluate a name that differently from a human? If I see a clever brand name, I might chuckle, but I do not automatically buy it.
That is the crucial difference. Large language models do not have a sense of humor, and they do not appreciate clever branding. They calculate probabilities based on semantic tokens. If a user tells their AI agent they need fast cloud storage, and your product is cleverly named Nimbus Vault, the AI has to do extra computational work to figure out what that means.
Right.
But if your product is literally named Speedy Cloud, the mathematical probability of a match skyrockets. You are giving the AI exactly the semantic tokens it is searching for. These agents look for explicit logical signals of utility, like strong keywords, high ratings, and positive badges.
Do they care if something is an ad? Like, does the AI recognize that a company paid to be at the top of the list?
They do, and they actively avoid it. They heavily penalize anything labeled as sponsored.
So even the robots are using ad blockers. That is brilliant.
And they are becoming ruthlessly efficient. The study noted that failure rates dropped from 63.7% to 4.3% for Claude across versions, and from 25.8% to just 1% for GPT. They are learning to navigate the web with incredible precision.
Which introduces a whole new optimization strategy. Adi Osmani, a Google software engineer, coined the term Agentic Engine Optimisation. The research noted that AI coding agents will read your product documentation, but they leave zero analytics trace. They spend barely 400 milliseconds on a page. You would not even know they were there. But it mentioned token limits. What exactly is a token limit, and how does it break the AI understanding of our products?
Think of a token as a chunk of a word. An AI agent can only process a specific number of tokens at once, currently around 100K to 200K tokens depending on the model. It is like their short-term memory limit.
Okay.
If your web page is full of heavy underlying code, massive amounts of text, tracking scripts, and complex formatting, you exceed the agent memory capacity very quickly. When that happens, the agent either truncates the information, missing key features entirely, or worse, it starts hallucinating facts to fill in the blanks.
So if my website is too bloated with code and tracking scripts, the AI just gets confused, hits its memory limit, and starts making up lies about my product.
Precisely.
The solution I saw is making documentation explicitly machine readable using specific file formats like elms.txt and skill.md.
That is the core of the strategy. You are essentially creating a stripped-down, pure text version of your site specifically for the scrapers to read. No fancy design, no interactive elements, just pure data formatted perfectly for a machine.
It is like writing a menu exclusively for a robot food critic who only reads the nutritional information and completely ignores the glossy photos of the burgers. And this means your brand is now a public record shaped by AI outputs and third-party content in a zero-click world.
You do not control the narrative purely through your website anymore. Your brand is an aggregate of how these models perceive you across the entire internet. Google is accelerating this by embedding AI skills directly into Chrome via Gemini. Users can save and trigger workflows with a single click, allowing the browser to automate tasks like product comparisons based on that aggregate public record.
And there is a physical cost to all this software magic. The immense computing power required for these AI tools is driving up memory costs globally. It is dragging down smartphone sales and pushing device prices up 40 to 50%.
The hardware has to catch up to the software demands. The processing power required to run agentic workflows locally on a device rather than in the cloud is massive.
Okay, so our phones cost a fortune. They're doing our shopping for us, and we are writing pure text code just so the AI can read our website. I have to ask, are we supposed to stop writing for human beings entirely? Because this all sounds incredibly robotic.
Not at all. The human still approves the final purchase. But before you can appeal to the human, you have to fix your digital identity crisis so the AI models actually understand what you sell. If the AI does not understand you, it will not recommend you to the human in the first place.
Brand inconsistency is the silent killer here. It is so common to see companies with 8 to 12 different profiles across platforms like LinkedIn and G2, and every single one describes the product differently because a different marketing manager wrote them over the years.
Which breaks the probability math for large language models. If a review site says you are a cloud storage tool and your social profile says you are a team collaboration suite, the AI sees conflicting data. It does not know how to categorize you, so it simply ignores you in its recommendations.
The fix sounds simple enough. You use your homepage headline and services as the single source of truth. Then, you use an automation tool like Claude to run quarterly updates across all your third-party profiles, so the messaging is identical everywhere. It is like wearing a tuxedo on LinkedIn, a clown suit on G2, and pajamas on your own website. You have to get the wardrobe sorted. But realistically, how quickly do these large language models actually update their understanding of a brand once we clean up this mess?
It can be surprisingly fast if you align your signals aggressively. A case study on a Dutch brand improving their AI visibility shows this perfectly. By focusing purely on high-intent, bottom-of-funnel SEO, they raised their large language model mention rate from 57.9% to 82.5% in just 2 months.
That is a massive jump. What was the impact on their actual business?
Their overall AI search presence jumped from 23.8% to 45.5%, which drove a 50% increase in conversion rates. This is critical because they estimate that 20 to 50% of traditional search traffic is now at risk as users shift entirely to AI-driven search.
Up to half your traffic could just vanish if you do not adapt. And once the AI recommends you, the human still has to pull out their credit card. This changes our approach to profiling customers. I saw a great method using Claude and Stripe data to find your best customers. You take your payment data, identify your absolute highest paying and longest retained customers, and feed that into Claude to find your golden segment. Then you create a single ideal customer profile document to align all your marketing assets around that specific group.
That handles the strategic alignment, but there is also technical hygiene. A lot of brands shoot themselves in the foot with basic errors that destroy their visibility. For instance, Webflow staging pages accidentally getting indexed by Google.
Oh, the phantom staging site, where Google thinks your messy test site is your real site. The notes mention fixing this by submitting a temporary removal request and adding custom noindex tags, rather than relying on default settings. Can you give me the simplest explanation of a noindex tag?
A noindex tag is simply a line of code placed in the header of a web page that explicitly tells a search engine scraper not to include this page in its search results. It is a polite but firm keep-out sign for robots.
Got it. The notes also mentioned using regex commands with sysg operators for competitor research. What exactly is a regex command doing under the hood?
Regex stands for regular expressions. Think of it as a superpowered find-and-replace tool that uses complex patterns instead of exact words. Instead of searching for a specific term, you can use regex to ask a search engine to find any URL on your site that contains a string of random numbers, helping you hunt down weird indexing errors in bulk.
Brilliant. Okay, let us pull apart the practical reality of doing all this work. We have all these technical AI theories, but how do time-poor teams actually execute this without completely boning out or losing their human touch?
It comes down to ruthless prioritization. There is a framework called Thrice for SEO prioritization. It extends the standard IC model, which is impact, confidence, and effort, by adding time, headcount, and reach. It is designed to stop teams from burning political capital on massive, unwieldy projects.
Right, because a simple title tag change might score 60 out of 60 on the Thrice scale, giving you a quick win, whereas proposing a full site translation might only score 26 out of 60. It keeps you grounded in reality and builds trust with engineering teams because you are actually accounting for their workload before making requests.
The job market reflecting this reality is shifting too. Hiring for entry-level jobs is down 6%, largely because AI is absorbing basic junior tasks like simple copywriting. However, marketing coordinator is the second fastest growing job title for new grads.
Because strategy is nothing without execution. You still need someone to actually pull the levers and deploy the AI tools. Meanwhile, Gen Z is shifting heavily toward freelance work, with 68% considering starting their own business.
Structurally, we are seeing companies move creative teams in-house. This sharpens decisions because the team has greater context about the product and it deepens accountability. They have to live with the results of their work, unlike an external agency. Furthermore, business-to-business teams desperately need to stop wasting content. They need to use frameworks like 60 ways to write about one topic to repurpose their assets efficiently.
And how we communicate directly with that audience is shifting. Traditional lead magnets are entirely dead. Nobody wants another generic PDF taking up space on their hard drive. Real, ongoing value solves specific audience needs and drives email list growth now.
The format of those emails matters immensely. You should use highly designed emails for broad engagement and brand building, but use plain text for personal messages.
Plain text just feels more authentic. It feels like a real person typing to you, which improves deliverability because spam filters prefer it too. And authenticity is exactly what works with influencer marketing right now. Duolingo and Crocs have proven that open briefs beat scripted ones every single time. There was a Crocs dark romance parody that was born purely from book talk passion by a team member, and it earned 14 million organic views.
You cannot script that kind of viral magic in a corporate boardroom. Creators build audiences through their own unique voice, not sterile talking points. Even in a highly digitized, AI-driven environment, raw, unpolished human enthusiasm breaks through algorithms.
Which brings me to my absolute favorite example of the whole lot, Pink's window services. This is a brilliant offline counterpoint to everything we just talked about. They took a totally commoditized blue-collar service and turned it into a lifestyle brand. Bold retro colors, sellable merchandise for uniforms, and branded vans just parked in high-traffic areas.
They bypass the digital congestion entirely. Instead of buying expensive billboards or competing in crowded digital ad auctions where 81% of people are ignoring them anyway, they occupied physical space in a highly memorable way.
It is so ironic. We just spent this entire time exploring how to optimize pure text files for robotic buyers, and a window cleaner is absolutely crushing it by simply parking a cool van on the street. It proves you still need to capture human attention in the real world.
The physical world is the ultimate unblockable channel. No virtual private network can hide a bright pink van safely parked on your street.
Which leaves us with a really provocative question to chew on. If an artificial intelligence agent is doing all the digital research, filtering out the ads, and making the final purchasing decisions for us, whose loyalty does a brand actually own? The human user or the algorithm? Keep unpacking that one. Thank you for exploring this with me on Vocal Technologist. Take these tactics, apply them to your own work, and see what breaks.
Spoken Tech for your ears.